This is SimNews.TV, and you're listening to the Super League show. Hello, everybody. We're back. We've got new cars, we've got new teams, new tyres, thank the Lord, and we've got some new drivers and a brand new calendar. So let's hit the reset button, charge into 2018, and give it the beans for GPVWC. I'm Jake Sanson, and in the studio with me, as always, it's Ben Willis and Kacper and Ben. Hello, gents. How are we?
Hello.
Finally, it's GPVWC season again. Yes, I am so hyped for this year. We've got so much to talk about. Let us start at the top of the bill with where we are going to be racing this year. Because obviously there's going to be a few disappearances from last year. Bye-bye, Sochi. We'll see you again in the future, hopefully. This year, we are starting off in Melbourne, going straight on to Shanghai. The first appearance in GPVWC, I'm fairly sure, Ben, of Baku. We've never raced at Baku before. How is this going to go?
I dread to think. Yeah, so first time at Baku. Obviously, it's a street circuit of two halves. We've got really long straights and then a horrifically narrow twisty section around the old part of town. I think it's going to be possibly carnage, but I have faith in our talented grid that we can get through it and have a great race, and it'll provide a great spectacle, I think.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out, but third round of the year, that means we should get some fireworks nice and early into the season. Then we have the fourth round of the championship. It is the Spanish Grand Prix going back to Catalonia. We enjoyed Valencia last year, Kacper, but obviously back to Catalonia, back to a circuit that the drivers would be more familiar with through testing and whatnot.
Yeah, of course. Catalonia would be one of the major tracks in real life and in sim racing to test on. It's a very fast track, very sweeping, and to be honest, I kind of will be sad to see Valencia gone, because that track is for a modern street circuit, it is actually one of the best ones out there. So too bad, but I guess it is definitely nice to see Catalonia back.
Well, we definitely can't use Valencia for too much longer, because I've just come back from that street circuit and you can't use it anymore. I'm sorry, you just can't. They have put new buildings up on the run to the final corner. You can't even get through there anymore. It's not physically possible. Sorry, guys. For anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'm quite happy to reshare. I actually came back from the Valencia street circuit, just doing a recce, as you do. And yeah, it's a shadow of its former self. Quite happy to share those pics with the GPVWC Facebook page. We'll try and get them up just so you can see, for the sake of argument. It's good fun to look at. So then we move on from Catalonia. We go to Monaco, of course. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve once more. Paul Ricard, the French Grand Prix. It comes back to Formula One, and it comes back to us, Ben. This will be interesting.
Yeah, first time at Paul Ricard as well for Super League, and very fast track. Plenty of runoff as well. So I think the disciplinary committee may have a bit of a torrid time with track cutting and track extensions. But otherwise, it's more modern circuit, wide, plenty of fast corners. So good challenge for the driver, and again, should be pretty interesting to watch that one.
Absolutely. And then we move on from Paul Ricard to the Red Bull Ring, to Silverstone, to the Hockenheim Ring this time for the German Grand Prix, to the Hungara Ring, to Spa, to Monza, to Marina Bay, to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, then to Austin, to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache for the Interlagos round at Brazil. And then we finish off at Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi. That sounds like a pretty exciting season from where I'm sitting. And it all kicks off, of course, on the 1st of March. So we're running out of time. It's only a few Thursdays away. So we'd better move on and talk about who's doing what over the course of 2018. First of all, let us talk about, I should say, the reigning champions. They used to be called Vodbull. They're now called ACR ZAKSPEED. And yes, it is in reference to that ZAKSPEED, ladies and gents. That's how quickly GPVWC is really hitting the button. They have the Valiant V18 engine, and they have Risto Capit still at the team. His teammate, however, Kacper, this is going to be an interesting appointment, Alex Siebel. Do we like this or not?
Oh, I really do like this. Alex Siebel has been showing some incredible stuff when we've seen him absolutely dominate the season in Super Cup last season. And we've also seen him show some really, really, really good appearances in a few races at the end of the last season in Super League as well. I think one of the standout races was in the Yas Marina, actually. And yeah, I think this is very, very exciting to see. And I think with somebody as experienced as Risto Capet beside him, and let alone one of the reserve / emergency drivers that they're going to have in ACR ZAKSPEED, I think that this could be incredibly strong showing from both of the drivers.
So tell me, would we be particularly surprised, Ben, to see straight away Alex Siebel coming in to the championship winning team from last year and beating Risto Capet straight away? Could that happen? Is it going to take a few races to really see how this works?
I think it's going to take a few races. I totally, think that Alex has got plenty of talent. He'll have plenty of speed. I think Risto obviously has experience of last year. He's been doing a lot of work in terms of tyres for the league as well. So I think Risto is going to be slightly ahead of Alex initially, but give it a few races, Alex should be there. He showed amazing pace, amazing talent in Super Cup, completely walked away with that title. So yeah, definitely a good replacement for Rudy Van Buren, of course.
And it's clear that ACR ZAKSPEED mean business with 2 reserve emergency drivers on standby in Maciej Mlanek and Filip Puszka. Wow, they've got Filip Puszka on standby. They seriously mean business in 2018. I mean, they were going at it last year, but this year they've got an interesting ace up their sleeve if they need it. We'll come back to that in future shows. Meanwhile, we move on to NORDSJØEN Racing. Everybody obviously expecting them to be the main challenger for ACR ZAKSPEED Valiant this year. NORDSJØEN with the Martex MX-06. Hopefully, it's going to be a much stronger package than it was last year. David Feidick is still in the team. His teammate, Ben, Alex Cooper. I am rubbing my hands in glee at this. This could be a really spicy alignment.
I would agree with spicy. I was very, very surprised when I was reliably informed that Alex would be moving to NORDSJØEN. There's a bit of history between David and Alex.
Yeah.
So putting them in a pairing is brave, to say the least. But Alex's main issue last year was the tyres, in that he just couldn't keep them alive for long enough. This year, that's changed completely. The tyres are completely different. We actually get some life in them. They feel really good over a long run. And I think this could suit Alex a lot more. It could play into his strengths a bit more. And could give a really good challenge to David, who was consistently strong last year, but not quite the level he needed to be. So, yeah, NORDSJØEN have got a good lineup there. They've got David Yunt in reserve, who continues on. He's been there for last few seasons now as their reserve. And interesting point to note, they do have the majority of the grid running their engine this year. There's a good 6 or 7 teams running the Martex power unit. So a bit of domination in terms of the engine market.
Yeah, this is all true. This is all true. I mean, as excited and hyped as I am, Kacper, for this appointment, putting these two in the same team, David Feidick and Alex Cooper, is this not like putting Senna and Prost in the same team? Is there not more of a potential for fireworks than good, or is there something we are not sure about?
It could possibly be also a bit like putting Alonso and Hamilton in the same team.
Well, yeah.
I honestly think that it could. I think it will all clear itself up within the first few races, hopefully, how they're going to go by. But it's going to depend on how close they are. And if they keep on battling each other, for example, on the track, I think it could spark some conflicts. I think it will very much depend on what happens on the track as we go into the season. And honestly, hopefully they're fine. But if there could be an internal war going on, I may not even know about it until later on in the season. We'll have to see about that. Also, with regards to the engine as well, I mean, it's the same thing as Valiant. I think it was last or 2 seasons ago that they were completely dominant in terms of manufacturing of their engines for teams. So I think it's just it just flows one way or another. People trying different things and different teams having the same idea of just going to the Martex engine. So I think we'll see. But Martex and Valiant engines are very strong, usually each year. So this should be very interesting.
So, with Feidick and Cooper in the same lineup and David Yunt on the reserve bench, it could be really interesting to see how NORDSJØEN Racing behaves. Now we move on to WAUTERS Automotive and a brand new engine manufacturer in the Quasar QSR01. This could be very interesting, and they have kept Jarl Tyen on board, but now moving in is Petar Brajliak. Now, this will be particularly interesting, Kacper. How do we think that a new engine and a new driver Goodbye, Gergo Baldi. How is this going to work for Wouters? Can they overturn the top two?
This is going to be very interesting. I think Petter is going to be quite a bit of a wild card, and it will very much depend on how quickly he can adjust himself to these cars. And I don't know any history of his racing career, but we have seen what the Altayan has been able to do late last season. And if he can keep up that kind of a pace, that kind of speed, and maybe even improve on it, I think we can see a challenger for NORDSJØEN and ACR ZAKSPEEDW, right? At least in the early parts of the season. And we're just going to have to see how well they can score consistently, because we know that the other top two teams that are going to be definitely some of the more consistent ones. So I think it'll come down to consistency and the speed of Petter.
And of course, with Niels Brugman in the reserve seat at Wouters, that could be really interesting as well. I have to say, Ben, a big surprise to see no Gergo Baldi not only not at Wouters, but not on the grid at all in 2018. That is a bit of a shock, actually.
So I do believe he's still with the Wouters team, but he's moved over into their race room sort of department, focusing on a different sim this year, a place where he's been very strong. But let's not discount Petter Burlak here. He is obscenely quick. I think he won Formula Challenge back in 2014, if memory recalls right. So he has been at GPV before. He went away for a little while. He's been doing a few other sim racing things in the meantime, but he's come back now, and the first two preseason tests he's topped the timesheets. And Wouters across the board have been up there, right at the top. So definitely do not discount Wouters for a few race wins, I think, and possibly even a title challenge, because I think they've got a really good package.
Okay, so so far so good for Wouters. We'll keep an eye on it. We move on to EDONIS Engineering, one of the star turns of last year with the Talos 9018 engine. Their two drivers for this year are Erhan Yayovski and Adam Taylor. This is an interesting appointment, Ben, because again, they basically have wiped the slate clean after 2017, where they had sporadic drivers in, drivers out. This time, they look like they've gone for consistency right from the off.
Yeah, I think it's a good approach. I know Yayovski and Taylor are good friends. They both, I think, drive at Team Vires over the Virtual Endurance Championship. So they know each other very well. And obviously losing Fran Lopez, not so ideal for EDONIS. But having those two who know each other already, they can work well together, which is good. And yeah, EDONIS just need that consistency, I think, to sort of get back to where they were in 2016 and sort of be up there fighting for wins. Talos engine maybe wasn't the strongest last year, so hopefully we can see an improvement there. Yeah, I think they can do all right this year.
Do we think that they're going to break further towards the top three this time, Kacper? I mean, we've got Bastian Paisler, another very talented driver, as the reserve if things do go wrong or go awry with Adam or Erhan in the early part of the season. Do we think there's enough of a stability here that we might see them towards the podium more often than not this time?
I think so. I know Adam has been very quick in I think it was VEC and again driving a prototype cars.
Yes, he has been quick there.
I don't know personally how. I think he was fast in Formula Challenge a couple of years ago. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't actually paid too much attention to it. But in general, he seems to be a fairly fast driver, fairly consistent. So I think it's going to mostly depend on how well he gets on with the car and how much time he actually puts in there. And Erhan, as far as I can tell, he is a very fast driver as well. So I think so. I think they can fight for a couple of podiums. I just hope that they do a lot better than at the beginning of last season, which was quite unfortunate.
Absolutely. Right, we're outside the top four. Let's go to HAWKEYE Racing, again with the Talos 9018, and a very feisty driver lineup going straight in. Fran Lopez moves across from EDONIS to join HAWKEYE, and alongside him, the Portuguese ace Ricardo Costa. Kacper, it's clear, HAWKEYE mean business. They've gone for two very feisty temperaments here.
Oh, that is for sure. Fran Lopez, we have seen at times can have an incredible speed and be one of the best drivers on the grid. But I just wonder, has he overcome some of the issues he had last season? Maybe the car didn't suit him. Maybe this year the tires may actually help him out a little bit. But I'm not sure how well he's been doing in the tests. I haven't been following him closely. But Ricardo Costa, for some reason, I'm blanking out on him. But either way, if it's an explosive duo, I think this could possibly end up in a bit of tears if they're not careful. We know how it is with temperamental drivers being put together in a team. I just hope they get along fine. However, this could be a very strong lineup.
Absolutely. And there are two very confident young drivers as backups if need be, Chris Butcher and Mike Quint. We both know that both of them are very strong and have the ability to step into the breach. We thought at times last year, Ben, particularly with Fran Lopez, he kind of reminds me a little bit of the Juan Pablo Montoya of GPVWC. You know, he has this ability to just click and turn on a dial, and he's unbeatable when he's got a good car underneath him. He's never really had that in 2017, admittedly, but when he's one of those guys where when everything's going well, it's going really, really well. And when it's going horribly, he just can't hack it. Do you think that 2018 is the breakthrough year? Can he prove what he can do with Hawkeye?
I do hope so. I think he was a bit similar to Alex Cooper in that he suffered with the tyres last year and just didn't quite get the car he wanted. So again, this year should be a little stronger for him. And as well, the cynic in me suggests his move to Hawkeye was because he has the ability to move to a manufactured team. So maybe he wants a bit of influence in how the engine's developed in terms of, you know, the development of the car overall. And that's how he's got it through moving to Hawkeye. So maybe by getting a car built to how he likes it, as well as having, you know, a better tyre this year, yeah, I think he could put on some really strong showings.
Sounds good to me. Let's move on to Red Archer with their Martex MX-06 engine. The Red Archer team have gone for a very interesting lineup this year. Thomas Hinz, the Australian, is back again. Pedro Gomez alongside him. I have a feeling, Ben, this could be a very smart move.
Yeah, so it's nice to see him stick with Thomas Hinz, who I think he became a fan favourite for us last year. He put on some really good showings. Always very good on the tyres last year. You know, he seems to be able to make tyres last for ages and was consistently doing less pit stops than everybody else. So nice to see Thomas Hinz back. Good, reliable driver there. And Pedro Gomez as well. I've had the pleasure of watching him race a few years back now when we used to run the Atlantic Series here at GPV, which was our IndyCar S League. And he was extremely fast in that. He did almost challenge for the title in 2015 there. So yeah, he's got great pace as well, and as long as he's happy with the car and the balance, yeah, it's a good lineup for Red Archer, and hopefully they can move up a bit from 6th last year and try and just get themselves out of the midfield and a bit more into the top fight.
Yeah, it was frustrating because the guys from Rethemnos in Greece, they did just at times look as though they were going to scratch the surface of the top 6 on a regular occasion, Kacper, and we were willing them on. We were willing them to get closer and closer. For whatever reason, there'd be a slight error in a concentration, or they'd be getting caught up in somebody else's incident, or the tyres wouldn't quite hold out as long as they predicted. I think everybody really wants to see Red Archer knock on the door of podiums on a regular basis in 2018.
Yeah, we want to see them do something along the lines of what we've seen them do at the end of 2016 season with Fran Lopez. I do really hope so. Thomas Hinz is definitely one of the fan favorites at this point, and has always been a nice bloke and a nice driver. And it seems like he's actually found himself a little bit last year, which was finally nice to see. And he's actually finally got some good luck. He's been having a horrible run until then for a while. But no, it's great to see see him still on for another season. Pedro Gomez should be a good teammate, as Ben said. And generally, I do wish that Red Archer is going to be another. I don't think they're going to be challenging for the wins, but I think they're going to be challenging for top 10 finishes constantly. And that's going to be nice to see if they get a break into a podium at some point, hopefully.
And as we speak, actually, Thomas Hinz is lapping very well at the Autodromo Enzo Edina Ferrari, the test that's going on in the 122s, quite solidly at the moment. So all is looking pretty good from the outset. That's not bad. That's the first half of the grid taken care of. Now we move into the second half of the grid, where there's a lot of question marks, and in one team in particular, it is make or break. I come to MADCAPE with their Martex MX-06. There's no question about this, guys. This is a make or break season for MADCAPE. This is the year that they have to prove that they have earned their place. And they've gone for an all-Swedish lineup for the 2018 season. Tobias Olsson moves across, and Eric Strana joins the team. Kacper, good move, or is this a complete unknown?
Good move. Tobias Olsson has not been the fastest driver, but he has shown some decent pace at times. and he's definitely a sure choice for somebody who wants somebody to be there reliably and just race and race and race. Eric Strana I know quite well since he's my teammate in in VC actually. So yeah, he's an extremely fast driver. He is very reliable, just very consistent. And I feel like if anything, he is going to be there for the team. And I'm really hoping for MADCAPE to do well this season and keep going and I think it's going to be a make season rather than a break season.
Okay, and obviously they have the German Jean-Pierre Helpap in the reserve spot. Ben, we need to see MADCAPE looking more like they were at the start of last year rather than they were at the end of last year. Do you think it's going to happen with Strana and Olsen?
I hope so. Strana is a proven talent at GPV. He's got great pace. He's consistently, been fighting for championships in the series he's been in. Maybe not with MADCAPE. I don't think they're going to be able to build quite the car the top teams can. But he should, score decent points there. I think he'll be disappointed if he doesn't. Same with Olsen as well. I think if he can again get the car under him, he's got decent talent there to score consistent points. And I think that's what MADCAPE need. They need a season of just consistent, solid points finishes. And that'll be enough to see him into a good place in the midfield.
Right.
I don't think they'll challenge at the top necessarily.
I think it's time to get pretty serious now because we're talking about the team who stunned us at the midpoint of January with their new commercial deal for the 2018 season, Street Fighter Racing Systems, or as they are now known, Red Bull Street Fighter Racing Systems. Oh yeah, and the car looks pretty much a carbon copy of the Grand Prix machine pedaled by Dan Ricciardo and Max Verstappen in terms of livery. And they have gone for a very interesting lineup. And I have to say, it is a little bit of a combination of youth and experience. It is very Red Bull. You've got Florian Geyer moving across. That was a big shock. Florian Geyer, the German who was battling for the title at points last year and a race winner, he joins the team alongside the Welshman, Ben Horrell, who has definitely proven himself in GPVWC over 2017. Ben, I am seeing brilliant things about this. It's a big step up for Ben Horrell in terms of working with somebody like Flo. And I think in terms of Flo Geyer working for a team like Street Fighter, he could do with a development season to really bring himself out of his shell again.
I think it's going to be extremely exciting, actually. I think Ben's got a great partner in Florian to help him build experience and help him sort of move up the grid. I think we saw Ben really improve in the last few races towards the end of the 2017 season. So having Florian there to help him, just improve that pace a little more, I think this could be an outstanding season for Street Fighter. If everything goes to plan, if they can build the right car, if they can get the setup right, then Florian and Ben should be, fighting up the front. I think.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, you've got to look as well at their reserves bench. They've also got Ben Schupanek, the Hungarian, and they've got the Croatian David Francic. Both incredible drivers when they are given a good car. And you have to say as well, coming into this season where there are so many unknowns, Kacper, where we don't know whether ACR ZAKSPEED are going to be the dominant package because Risto is now going to be the leader of the team. He's going to have the hard-charging Alex Siebel on his tail. We've got NORDSJØEN unknown in terms of how close they will be with the Cooper and Fidek squabble. Could Red Bull Street Fighter with Flo Geyer and Ben Horrell be genuine challenges for the title? I mean, I don't want to say that that's a derogatory comment because they were in 8th position last year in the Constructors' Championship, but could they do it? Could they actually be a genuine contender?
I honestly think Florian Geyer can be a contender, and now that's the thing. I think honestly he's going to be running the development of the SRS car. Because he's been at NORDSJØEN for so long, he kind of understands it a bit more probably, considering he was in the top team, the team that was at the top all the time for the last few seasons, and now he can take his knowledge and just put it into the SRS car. And Ben Horrell, I think, is going to be able to have a bit of a mentor in Geyer. He has been improving at the end of last season, and he's been doing some incredible. He has shown some incredible pace by the end of the season. So I'm really hoping that this team is going to be fighting for possibly the team championship. Honestly, if Ben Horrell gets it together, I think that they could be challenging for that championship. But however, I do think that if anybody is going to be the challenger for the championship, it is going to be Geyer. And we're going to just have to wait and see. Interestingly enough, he's still running the same engine as is developed by the same team he was in last season. So he's going to be that one step behind in terms of knowing when the engine is going to come in, any changes to the engine. So there's that, I think there's still going to be quite a bit of a rivalry going on between Geyer and Fidok, really.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be the coolest driver lineup of the season. Now we move into the last team that was present on the 2017 grid. That is Storm Racing with their Martex MO6 power supply. We have Liam de Waal and Menno Klont in the team. Now this could be an interesting one. An all Dutch lineup here, Kacper. The Romanian squad. Do we think that there's a chance that they will push on a bit from last year?
I think so. Menno Klont is definitely a very consistent driver. He can show some bits of speed. And I know he's been a test driver at Super League for a very long time. And I think with Liam de Waal, they can definitely show a kind of mid to high mid pack team. We'll see how it goes. I don't think they'll be fighting for wins, but I think that they can show some decent running out there.
Do we think that this could be a very crucial season in terms of the longevity, Ben, for Storm? Do they need to really be at their A game this time?
Yes, I think it's. I'm trying to rack my brains back to looking at the relegation table we have. So each team can come up for relegation once they've been in the Super League for a minimum of 3 seasons, and then it's a combined average points over what you scored for the last 3 seasons. So Storm had a good season in race one. Good score in season 1. That's what I meant to say. And then a not so good score in season 2. So this does make it a bit make or break for Storm. It's a solid lineup. I think it can score points for sure. It's not going to challenge up the front, I don't think. And I wonder if, given the quality of the rest of the field, that could be their downfall, I think.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye on Storm Racing. Now we move on to the 5 teams who are new for the 2018 season, but every single one of those teams has to be applauded straight away for choosing talent in their teams that have recent GPVWC Super League experience. Every single team has at least one driver that has raced in the GPVWC Super League over the course of 2017. So that is actually a very, very sensible move from each of those teams. We'll introduce you to them all. MEASURIC Racing with their Talos 9D18 engine. They have elected the team from Bennekom in the Netherlands to go for the German Dino Paulini and the Dutchman Wopke Hoekstra. Now, I have a feeling, Ben, that could be a very sensible move, going for consistency and solidarity in their first season.
It's a very strong lineup. Dino obviously did a few races for HAWKEYE and possibly EDONIS last season, and he was very quick in them. Showed great pace, scored points, did what he needed to do when he drove the car then. So he comes into this with experience, of course, of the car. Wopke as well had a hand in helping out HAWKEYE in terms of management over the last year and possibly 2 years. So he has Super League experience there as well. And both of them worked really well in Super Cup last year together. MEASURIC obviously taking the Super Cup teams title. So yeah, there's plenty of talent there, and should be a really strong lineup.
Absolutely. And obviously, Kacper, as well, you've got to say with MEASURIC, they have obviously looked at talent in both of their lineups. There's not too bad a talent on the reserves bench either, is there, in the shape of a young chap called Ben Willis, who we obviously we've spoken to a few times. We know a little bit about him. Do you think that's going to work out?
I think it may, yes. It also may introduce some bias into what he was just saying.
No, it's all fun in love and war. It's absolutely brilliant. But no, we congratulations for getting yourself a reserve drive in a GPVWC Super League team.
Thank you.
It's not bad.
Oh,
very good.
Of course, Ben, you have also raced last season. I think it was 2 or 3 races.
We don't speak of that.
So, Kacper, all I've got to ask is, who have you got to sleep with to get a reserve drive in a
Oh, God. I'm going to tell you. I would have to kill you today if I told you.
I think we should move on there.
Swiftly.
Fair play to MEASURIC for going for knowledge and experience, both in the commentary booth and on the track. Well done.
Yes.
Right, let's talk about Evolution with the Valiant V18 engine. And again, 2 very solid drivers going to be in that particular team for their first season. The guys from Kirchhain in Germany. They have gone for a local man in Dennis Jordan and the Englishman Tom Parker, which once again, Kacper, is proof that solidarity, consistency, I think will steer this team in a good direction.
I think so. Both the drivers are reasonably quick. Tom Parker has had quite a good experience in Super League. Can't remember if it was if he raced last year.
Yeah,
but he definitely raced the year before that as well. He did test with Vodbull, I think, at the end in the young drivers test, or am I?
He popped up and did a few laps in the Woods car, but he did race the final race in Super League last year for Vodbull.
That's what I'm remembering. Yes, but Tom Parker is a very fast driver, and he has proven that in Yes Marine. Now I remember. Yes. So I do think that this could be a very good lineup, and Dennis Jordan has also shown some great pace in, at very least, slower categories. But I think this could be a very, very strong lineup and very good for starting up. And I think their reserve driver is a very, very strong driver as well.
Indeed, Tobias Polotczek, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. I have to say as well, Ben, I think the most interesting driver in this lineup is going to be Tom Parker. Let's not forget, he did an awful lot of the work with Vodbull last year in terms of the setup and in terms of the strategy behind the scenes. He was one of the most invaluable members of the squad, and yet only doing one round to fill in for Rudy Van Buren when he was doing the McLaren's World's Fastest Gamer. Do you think there's going to be a sort of a pent-up motivation in Tom Parker to prove, you know, that Vodbull racing was not just down to Risto, was not just down to Rudy. He had a hand in that. Do you think that there's going to be a point to prove here for Tom?
Maybe. I think there's certainly validity to that argument. Also, though, I know Tom's doing it very much for fun, really. He enjoys driving Super League cars. So I think, you know, he should have a really good season. I think having Dennis there as a teammate, both got plenty of talent. Tobias is reserve as well. Tobias Polotczek, that's also a really strong acquisition there. And the eagle-eyed among you may have spotted that Evolution is very much being pitched as an ACR B team in terms of it being a Valiant customer. Dennis and Tom are ACR contracted drivers, I believe.
They are.
Certainly Tom is. So there's a clear link here. So I wonder if they'll be working closely with the ACR guys in terms of setup, in terms of development of their car and engine as well. In which case, I keep an eye out on Evolution being up towards the top of the field.
That's a very good point, because we're sort of, to a certain extent, we're extending the whole sort of basis of a B team within the senior category. I'm just starting to wonder now, you know, if we're going to have that, I mean, what is the likelihood that, you know, maybe a season or so down the line, we're going to have a slightly different tack? I mean, what if we were eventually to have, I don't know, the Toro Rosso Combattente de Strada team, obviously backing up Red Bull Street Fighter. That could genuinely end up happening, depending on how successful they are. But it's a good point. You know, we do have a B team there in that particular squad for Evolution, so we'll have to see how they do. Three left. Sorry, Epic Racing Team with their Martex MX-06, the guys from Banbury. And it'll be interesting because they've definitely gone for two incredibly strong talents. They've gone for the Spaniard, Borja Milan, and they've gone for the Frenchman, Jeff Fournier. Now, this one, Ben, I genuinely can see this team coming in and being the dark horse. With two talents like Milan and Fournier, they could be very strong right from the off.
Totally, yeah, and I think it's a clear sign of how, you know, strong our new entrants are this year and how strong the overall grid is. In that we're quite a way into the team lineups now, and we've still got some really strong drivers here. Jeff had a great run towards the end of last season when he did a few fill-in races. I think it was Red Arch, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that was it. Yes, Marino, he finished fourth, which is outstanding in a Red Archer. And Boya Milan has looked really good in Super Cup as well, putting on some really strong performances there. So Epic, yeah, they're sitting pretty here. They're looking pretty good. Should be, you know, towards the top half of the midfield. And it's nice to see as well their rise. It's been, you know, promotion after promotion over the last few seasons, from former challenge all the way up. So yeah, nice to see Epic there, and should be a really good season.
So a strong team in the junior formulas. Borja Milan and Jeff Fournier, strong drivers in the feeder formula. Rob Mason and Chris Shepherd waiting in the wings if anything crops up. Kacper, there doesn't seem to be much with this team that we need to doubt going into the first season. I think it's now just a guess on which row of the starting grid should we expect them to be on.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Both the drivers are extremely strong and have been strong for years, from what I've seen. And yeah, I think it's gonna be just as Ben said. I don't think there's much to add there. Jeffrey doing the one thing about Jeffrey is that he's a little bit on the unpredictable side in terms of his performances last year in Super Cup. Yes, at times he was pretty much unbeatable, and then there were other races where he was a little bit, I guess, just was missing something there, or just made mistakes. Something happened, had problems with his internet for a while there, and getting disconnected from races. So I'm just hoping that he's going to have a really good season, and if he does, he could be he could actually be challenging for maybe even better than midfield.
Could be exciting. We have 2 teams left, and the first of those are the boys from Tallinn in Estonia. The EVAL sim racing team is back at the Premier League of GPVWC, and with Wright Kilk and Argo Tida, it is an all-Estonian lineup with their reserve driver in Eduardo Corre. I think this could be a really interesting battle for the team. With Kilk and Tida, Kacper, it's definitely going to have national flavour. Are they going to be knocking on the right doors, though?
I'm not entirely sure. I know I have seen Kilk race, I think, last season in Super Cup. But he's never really shown anything incredible. Argo is our resident cameraman. Actually.
Well, he is our cameraman. So I mean, am I going to have to, buy myself a new Canon? I mean, what am I going to have to do? Am I going to have to be hanging over a while I'm commentating? What's going to happen?
No, I think we have that sorted.
Good.
No, but I think it's going to be interesting, and I think we're going to have to really wait until the first race of the season to really judge on their performance. But I am slightly afraid that we may not have a strong start to the season, just because last season these 2 drivers weren't. Pretty much all the teams on the grid now have somebody who has been working last season and kind of is in the flow of things nearly. And I think that this team may take a while to actually get into the swing of things.
It's a good point. I mean, they are currently utilizing as much of the testing time as they possibly can. They're out at Imola now, both Wright and Argo putting in some good laps. I mean, Ben, this is going to be a hard one to call, but is it fair to say that we should really be patient with Eval and perhaps not be too surprised if we see them on the back row of the grid in Melbourne?
I think we're going to have to be, but given the quality and the talent on the grid this year, I think it may be a bit of a baptism of fire, to be honest. I mean, Wright Kilk, formerly Wright Tulikas, I've seen him put in some good performances from time to time. For him, it's going to be consistency. Argo, I haven't seen so much of, and on his day, again, he's quick, but again, it's consistency, and that is what's going to score the points at the end of the day. We obviously haven't seen enough to see whether they can show that, and also, I don't know how much they know in terms of upgrading the car, in terms of the management side of running a Super League team. So that's also pretty critical. So interesting to see what they do there.
So that's Eval. The last one is a bit of a surprise, actually. The flag-to-flag sim racing team, who are based over in Guildford in England with their Martex X06 engine, I should say. And already a little bit of a shake-up before the start of the season. Their lead man is still Michael Ayres. It was originally drafted to be the Pakistani racer Haris Parvez, but only in the last week or so, that has been changed, and the number 2 is now Mark Hutchinson, with a new reserve in place of Peter Schultz. You have to say, Ben, this doesn't really give us the right sort of starts coming into the new season when you've already planned your drivers, and then with a couple of weeks to go, you're already shuffling it. This does not read like a great early sign.
Yeah, it's not a good sign at all, to be honest. And also, from what I've noticed on the contract system, only Michael Ayres is contracted as a primary, and Mark Hutchinson and Peter Schluss are reserve drivers, which is breaking a rule, unfortunately. You cannot have more than one reserve driver.
No, indeed.
So whether if they have been testing with the contract system like that, then they've just wasted a lot of money, and they're not going to get many many R&D points. So hopefully it's just a bit of a a novice blip, and once they learn a bit more about Super League, they'll be able to get back in the swing of things. But maybe to me, this is a sign that by coming straight into Super League and being able to bypass the career ladder. They don't really have much experience of how things work here.
If it's not too late, I've got a team that's been in the career ladder for a year. I mean, I know we've been right down at the bottom, but I've got two really, really, really good racing in the real world as well, so we might actually go somewhere. Anyway, that's a Formula Challenge story anyway. But no, Kacper, I mean, the one thing I fear with this, more than anything else, is not necessarily the fact that they're new, that they've bypassed the career ladder. It's that they've got a driver like Michael Ayres, who we know is a really good driver. You know, Michael deserves an opportunity to be in a strong team, to have a good car underneath him. It's a bit Vincenzo Sospiri-ish, this rings to me. You know, a talented driver who's signing up for a team that may not even be in the swing of things yet and may not even get it together in time for Australia. I really don't want to see Michael suffer as a result of this, but that is already starting to look like a danger of happening.
Yeah, it's always a risk if you have a new team and you join it. And, you know, it's a gamble. And I think we're going to have to wait until they actually get to Australia to really judge it. But to see a failure already is quite, yeah, it is definitely not a good sign. And as I think this is kind of a lesson in that we should be more, that it could nearly be a lesson in terms of being more safe, in terms of choosing teams that have some experience with GPVWC systems, maybe. And because Flag to Flag is a very good team, and they have shown that they can race in other series, but those series don't have development in the same way that we have in GPVWC. So it's just a bit of a, yeah, I guess it's something that they have to learn. And unluckily, Michael Ayres is going to suffer over it, I do unluckily feel.
So that is your grid for the 2018 GPVWC Superleague season opener at the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. We obviously can't really do best or worst, which is about what we do at this sort of time. So I'm just going to throw it out there to our panelists here and say, pick a winner for the Australian Grand Prix. Who do you think, on paper, has the best shot? Ben, who would you go for at this early stage of the season?
That's a tough one, because we need to remember that Melbourne is going to be equal cars, because nobody will be able to develop an upgrade yet for Melbourne.
Exactly.
So, all right, let's go a bit wild on it. Petter Burlak.
Really, straight in there with Petter Burlak.
Yeah.
What do you justify that with?
His very good pace in the testing, knowledge of his pace elsewhere. Obviously, you know, 2014 FC champion. And yeah, I just have a good feeling about the WAUTERS team this year. They've really been on it. They've, you know, got their own engine now. They've sent out a lot of positive signals. I think Alex may need a little bit of time just to get up to speed in the ACR. I don't think he'll be necessarily going straight for the win, but he'll be up there. And yeah, Risto, I think, will be a close second. So yeah, Petter Burlak for me.
So Croatia's Petter Burlak for Ben Willis. Kacper, who do you think?
Dang it, I was about to say the other WAUTERS driver at first, before Ben went away with Petter.
Oh, you were going to go for Jarl Tyen?
Yeah, I was, yeah. But now I'm thinking about it, and honestly, I think that we can vote for Fran Lopez. Now, if the tires suit him...
Really?
Now, this could be very interesting. If the tires suit him, I think he can be potentially a surprise in Australia.
Wow, okay. So we've gone for Petter Burlak, and we've gone for Fran Lopez. I'm going to throw the ball out there and go for yet another surprise. I think it's going to be Flo Gaia.
Whoa!
I can see him doing it. I genuinely think, you know, Flo Gaia last year, a little bit of politics going on between him and Fireduck. He won't have to worry about that. Ben Horrell will want to work with him. They'll want to hit the ground running straight away. Street Fighter will do everything they can to put a good car in the hands of Flo Gaia. I think he could walk the first one. I think it could be a Brawn. I think it could come straight in and boom. That'll do the job nicely, thank you.
It'll be pretty spectacular.
It would be, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what we want to see in GPVWC. I mean, we had a good year last year with Rudy, not only blitzing, but then going on to the real world of cars and everything with McLaren, and we wish him all the very best, and a huge thank you to everything he has done for GPVWC in the last year or so. Now we move into the 19th season. I think it's time for some real fireworks. And looking at the lineup we've got, you know, the drivers we've got in at ACR, ZAKSPEED, the drivers we've got in at their sister team, Evolution. We've got a good lineup at MADCAPE, potentially. We've got the NORDSJØEN boys who'll be snapping at each other's heels as much as they will everybody else. Red Archer looks stronger. Red Bull STREETFIGHTER, WAUTERS, they all look really strong. We still don't know what the new kids on the block are going to do. Fran Lopez at HAWKEYE. There's so many different factors coming into this season. It is just about the most unpredictable first round of a championship in GPVWC in recent memory. I can't wait.
I think that this is one of the strongest grids I've seen in sim racing in many ways. This is in some incredible talent in pretty much every team, bar maybe two. It is such an unpredictable thing, and I'd actually love to see Alex Cooper win the first race. That would be a beautiful thing to see as well.
It would, yeah. Well, the thing is, that's the thing. I mean, I can't remember the last time, Ben, I came into a Super League race, or certainly watched one as a spectator before I got into the commentary box, where you can literally look through the grid and pick a dozen drivers who could win the first race of the season. I've never thought of it. I've never seen it that open before going to the first round.
Totally, yeah, totally agree. The talent pool here is insane. Yeah, I know I said Peter Burlat, but looking through, there are so many people that could win there. Yeah, it's set itself up for an absolutely brilliant season opener in Melbourne.
Right.
Yeah, interesting to see where it goes from that.
Well, what are we going to do? We're going to have to wake Joshua Anderson out of his hibernation over the winter. We're going to have to get ourselves well oiled with some barbecues and some beers and get ourselves up nice and early on the 1st of March. Of course, we've got Formula Challenge and Super Cup as well. So that's going to be the first major week of the sim racing season. If you are a GPVWC fan, make sure you tune in on the 27th and 28th of Feb. And of course, on the 1st of March, we are back the week after for a review of the Australian Grand Prix in what promises to be one of the most exciting Australian Grand Prix in GPVWC history. Do, of course, keep in touch with us all the way through the year. Subscribe to us on Twitter at SLShowSN. If you're watching via YouTube, do please, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hashtag SLShow. If you want to chat with us through the course of the season, do please do so. We would love to hear from you. My two colleagues, once again, Ben Willis and Kacper Kolodicic, thank you for sharing the show. It's been a great chat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, as ever.
That was absolutely lovely. Thanks.
And all we have to do now is hit the reset button, find a comfy chair, get some snacks ready, and belt ourselves in for another spectacular season. And we'll be with you all the way through the year to round it up, to get you involved. And hopefully, in 2019, it'll be you on that starting grid. Don't forget to keep up with things on the website, gpvwc.com. And we'll see you on the 1st of March for the Australian Grand Prix. Hang on to something. It's going to be one heck of a year. See you soon.